Good day. So, let's you and me talk a little bit about code. Weird, right? Me talking about filming my face and talking about code. You've never seen that one, right? But this time I'm going to talk to you about code quality and trying to convince you to let go of that mental itch that we all have at some point. And that mental itch is that you will, as you progress and as you develop your skill set as a programmer, you're going to look back at things you've wrote or things that have been made in a certain way, and you're going to get that urge to rewrite it or to fix it or try to make it into a practice that you are today using. And I am here to try and convince you to fight that urge, or rather to be honest about that urge. Because the thing is that you may not think so if you haven't been doing this for a while, and you may not even want to admit that you do it if you have, but coding is very emotional for a lot of people. A lot, like more than maybe, like, you know, we're programmers, we're engineers, we want to think that we're so structured and logical and that, you know, we're always thinking about good reasons and, you know, having, I don't know, you know, so like good solid arguments why we should rewrite something or why we should refactor something or why we should choose one library over the other and so forth. But the truth is that a lot of the time it's actually very emotional. And the same goes for all like scientific fields. Like, people are still people and people have preferences, and whenever you get into a situation where it's not very, and oftentimes this is the common case and it happens all the time, I see it all the time, because you can solve a problem in many different ways, people will find different ways of solving the same problem, and then they will start arguing about, or rather pick a preference based on their own emotional state, you know, as to which should be which. I mean, even today we have things that are still living in the IT world, and we're still doing certain things, even though it's been proven scientifically not to be the best, you know, the best thing. And it happens because basically you will never write, it will never be perfect. No solution will ever be perfect. Your code will never be perfect. You will never achieve a perfect commit or a perfect feature, something that just is so beautiful and perfectly made that you save it, you commit it, you push it to your repository, and then you just relax and feel really good about yourself. It might start out that way. You might feel that way in the beginning, but most often you're going to keep on developing. Your code stays the same, but you as a person change, and you start thinking about different ways you could solve the same problem, or you could do it in a better way, or, you know, you think of other things that you can consider, and you start giving in to that itch that you have, which is that itch that wants you to build something extraordinary or something that's even better than what you already built. And I'm here to try to convince you that you don't go that way. Instead of rewriting the thing that you already made in a nicer way or so forth, for no other reason than you actually want to make the code a little bit nicer, ask yourself this question: is the code bad? Could you, what will you gain from rewriting it or improving it or making it the way that you want it to be made? What will you gain? And if you are not able to quantify that, and I'm talking about like that you can actually prove that there's going to be a clear benefit, because a lot of people will simply say, oh, it would be easier to read. Like, code comprehension is a classic argument. I hear it all the time, and a lot of developers I've talked to, they use, oh, it will be more readable as an excuse to do a rewrite. And the fact of the matter is that I don't, most of the time I just look at them and I say, I don't think that that's the problem. I think that it becomes more readable to you. I think you want to rewrite it because it makes it more comprehensible to you. And very often I find that that's the case. It's very rare that I talk to somebody who's objectively just saying, oh, we need to clean this up a little bit. Most of the time it's an emotional thing. They just want to rewrite it or remake it because they have a way they want it to work right now, and they're just going to go with that. Try to fight these people. I'm not saying that there's no reason to refactor code or how to improve something, but I am saying that we should be honest about when we do so. It has to make sense. If the code has been neglected to the point where it's actually truly difficult to understand, like classic examples is your function 500 lines of code long. Like all of these things happen over time, and those are the places you should, in my opinion, hear people talk the most about refactoring things or making things nicer, but it's not really all that often that happens. So my approach that I highly encourage you to take is to think about it in the way that, all right, I'm working on this specific feature right now. Let's apply, and this is not my rule, it's called the Boy Scout rule. It works very well. Apply it whenever you see fit and make small iterative changes that make the code a little bit nicer, and then build your stuff, ship it, and be disappointed in that you couldn't make it perfect. And instead of kicking yourself over not being able to ship, that perfect system, you start building the next thing. And then you build the next thing. And you take something away from each project you have. You keep on building things over and over until you know how to build them right. Don't second guess your decisions in a certain project. Fix them if you absolutely have to fix them, but don't second guess yourself. Because odds are that you made the best decision you could based on the situation you were in. That's why I try to be very forgiving when I see bad code, because I try to remember that, I'm looking at this in a different time. I'm looking at it from a different perspective. The situation may have changed. Why do I don't want to assume that the person who wrote this is incompetent or that they are sloppy or they are a bad craftsman. I have to consider that the situation may have been different and the needs and the requirements may have been different when this code was written. And if we have this idea of trying to build things as well as we can, like with a bit of pragmatism, and simply trying to improve ourselves to the next time we're going to build whatever you're building, I think that's a much healthier approach. It's kind of like, like everybody who tries to innovate or tries to build something from scratch goes through this process. I mean, let's take the wheel. The wheel as we know it today, it has gone through many iterations before we arrived at something that we can put on our cars today. And I think that mindset is very healthy. I think it's healthier to do as well as you can, learn from the results and the journey that you took in building that thing, and then try to apply it in the next project you have. It's actually something that I was taught by a guy I used to follow a lot called Day9. I love StarCraft, or I really like it, and he had one of my apps. Still has my favorite podcast, and he said something that really spoke to me. He was making a video about how to improve in StarCraft and how to learn from your games, and I was really keen because I wanted to get really good, right? And he said that just run the game as you would, play the game and videotape it. And don't think about the mistakes you're making as you're playing. Just focus on the game. Try to do as well as you can while you're playing, because you don't try to improve in the middle of the game. Improve in between each game. And I think that mentality is also true for software development.